Afternoon and a warm welcome to Public Square of the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. I am Eustace Victor Jones. Coming up in this edition, we take an exclusive look at schoolgirls attending school and taking public exams in Sierra Leone. Meanwhile, you can contribute to the program by sending questions, suggestions or comments to the number 077 346 302. I repeat, 077 346 302. Or you could find us on any of our social media angles. On Facebook, type at SLBC Live Channel 31. We are also on major other social media fora. If you wish to, you join us. Now, the government has issued a clarification on the attendance of pregnant girls to schools. According to the release, government discourages teenage pregnancy and encourages girls to take antenatal health services at the nearest government health facilities. It was also to discourage early marriage and ensure that girls be girls. Now, will this decision by the government yield any good fruit for pupils, or pregnant pupils, if I should specify, in Sierra Leone? Now, to have answers to a question such as this, I am joined by two gentlemen in the studios this afternoon. I have Brima K. Mwana. He's the head of programs, Coalition of Civil Society and Human Rights Activist. Welcome to Public Square.
Thank you very much.
And also I have Sylvester Mew. He is a retired principal and former chairman, Conference of Principals of Secondary Schools in Sierra Leone. A pleasant afternoon to you, sir, and a warm welcome to Public Square.
Good afternoon too.
All right, you have heard the question. I'll start with you, Brima. Is this timely in any way for government to have made such an utterance about girls going to school, not specifically joining the class, but taking the exams?
Yeah, I think this has been the threshold, even for us, civil society, and have been a serious debate for government taking up these decisions. Because like, it's a pleasure really to welcome the idea at this moment as a civil society, looking at the masses coming out to the schools, especially for this the free quality education. Because if we continue to encourage, our government, or as a Sierra Leoneans continue to encourage pregnant girls coming to school, it's a very touching, it's a very big thing, because it's not an example we are setting up as a government or as a nation. This is what we as a civil society really want to look at and back up with government to support them, to try to discourage such things. Because if we want to get quality education in this country, obviously actions that needs to be started at this point in time. So
are you saying you are frowning at the decision the government made?
No, we are not frowning at it. I'm not
You're
saying
supporting.
We are supporting in the motion that God, from the day when
that girls should go to school whilst they are pregnant?
No.
Or to take exams?
No, it's not even to attend schools. Because a matter of fact, you are now pregnant as a school-going child.
So they should not?
They should not.
Sylvester Mew, do you buy this idea in any way?
I think programs should be made for girls who are pregnant rather than going to the school system. That will also make the others who are in school to say, well, this is a good example, let me copy it, which is not a good example. I think the Ministry of Education, basic and senior secondary education, has programs they have made for those girls who are impregnated to be sent to centers where they will be trained and they will be able to take exams and join the regular school later on. But I still give the necessary support to the Ministry of Education that girls who are pregnant should not be allowed to go and join the regular school, because it will encourage the other pupils in the school to go and be pregnant at the same time, come back, say, I have a right to come to school. And then it will affect discipline. And in the absence of discipline, learning does not take place. Learning and discipline work hand in gloves. So I think the program the Ministry of Education has got for pregnant schoolgirls, wherein centers are made, supports are given to them, I think it is very, very good. And one thing I've also been very much impressed, which will also reduce these pregnant schoolgirls in school, is this Hands Off Our Girls, which has just started by the First Lady. I feel so good. I am following it up every day. When they went to Makeni, up to Pujong, all of these places, they are going to Canberra. I am following it up. I'm very happy it is not limited to Freetown. It is going right around the country, and the support the stakeholders in these various places are giving, I'm quite certain is going to minimize pregnancy in schools and will ensure that quality education is enhanced speedily.
Okay, so now thanks very much, Sylvester. May I use this opportunity to welcome Josephine Kamara, who has just joined us in the studios this afternoon. She is the Advocacy and Communications Coordinator, Purposeful Production. Good afternoon and warm welcome to
Thank you.
Public
Thanks for
Square.
having me.
Yeah.
Thanks,
You are late. I would not ask why you're late, but
I
will
was
continue.
busy advocating for pregnant girls to go to
Even
school.
on Sunday.
Yes.
All right. That shows how determined you are. And now, since you are so determined and enthused this afternoon, I'll ask you the question. Now, you have heard, I'm sure you have, that government has said that girls who are pregnant should start joining the queue of other girls to start taking exams in school, but they are not allowed to join the regular class. What's your take on this?
Well, let me go back to the recent press release that came out from the government historian, stamped by the Ministry of Basic Senior Secondary School Education. It is very clear that ever since this ban was introduced in 2015, when a host of our girls were impregnated, we don't believe girls just go and get pregnant. We believe they are victim of what we call sexual penetration, because our law says that children below the age of 18 cannot legally consent for sex. So our argument has been, if these girls cannot consent for sex and they are now pregnant, and remember during the Ebola outbreak when schools were closed, this is what the Foreign Policy magazine referred to as the Ebola rape crisis that no one is talking about. We realized that there was a lot of rape cases that occurred during that period, because it was a period when the girls stayed home. They were not living in luxury. They were just sexually abused by people who were close to them, their uncles, their friends, their brothers, their cousins, people who were very close, because we know rape most of the time does not happen by people who are very distant from you. So if these girls we claim below the age of 18 who cannot consent for sex are pregnant, our question to the government is, why should the government, who should be protecting the rights of these girls, who should be running after the perpetrators of these girls, why would that government introduce a ban that create barriers for more girls to access education? We're already living in a country where we only have 52% of literate women, and we have about 70.1% of male who are literate in this country. It means the disparity is huge. The rate between educated men and educated women is really huge. So we should be really making access, and a free education program that excludes pregnant girls, for me, I believe, is not free at all. Because if it's free, then it should be open for all to access it. And apart from that, it's very important for us to note that education is a fundamental human right. It's another basis of the argument again. If it's a fundamental human right, it means that nobody has the right to take it away from you. It doesn't matter the condition of the person who is requesting to access that education. It doesn't matter the pregnancy status of the person who is requesting to ask for that education. The fact of the matter is it's a fundamental human right. And we as a government, we as people of this nation, we have the responsibility to not continue to fail girls further and make sure that they get the education that they deserve.
Thank you very much, Josephine. Brima, you've heard, you've listened to Josephine. She seems very determined. I wonder whether you'll be continuing with what you had started with. At this juncture, are you still in support of girls not going to school? Because clearly, Josephine has said that these girls are victims of sexual penetration.
I see what we are against is setting up precedent that you cannot be able to further.
Would you say, before you go forward, that this is in any way not a violation of a fundamental human right of being educated?
No, it's a human rights issue to be educated. It's a human rights issue. So that's why the government is there to make the provision so that for everybody to go to school, to be educated in any given country.
Now,
so that's why it is.
Before you go forward, have you had your way? What would you have rather the government done?
Well, the matter of fact,
in an instance like this,
they have
in a country where girls are being impregnated at a very alarmingly rapid rate.
Oh yes, it's an alarming rate. But if you go into the details about these pregnancies, not all pregnancies are rape cases.
It is rape because
they are not.
Consent
we have so many cases. We are human rights people. We are at the community level. Yes. We are monitoring all cases going to the family support unit, even at court level. We are monitoring these things. They are not all rape. They are not all pregnancies related to rape.
So what are these other factors
of course
that get girls impregnated? Before you go forward, you have said it's not only sexual penetration. What else could have caused the alarming rate of teenage pregnancy in Syria?
Looking at the lack of sexual education right now. If you go to schools now, like formerly when I was in school, we used to get family life education in schools. But rather unfortunately, that's been wiped out from school curriculum. So what now we want, our advocacy should be now is let them take back this sex education to schools, so that from primary school up to secondary school level, before you go to tertiary, that you have been able to aware, to know what you're supposed to do. So lack of
sexual education
in schools have been contributed. And now you know the technology world we are now living in has been another cause for girls to be sexually active. So you don't have joke on it. It's the whole truth. You see? So what the government have done is that we don't want government to set up a pace that cannot be able to continue. Because right now, if this kind of things continue within the school system, it will continue. You see, which is bad in precedent. So when you want to be girls. Not, you cannot be girls at the same time you want to educate. You see,
Sylvester.
Yes, sir.
May I bring you in just here? Now, Brima has said that lack of sexual education is a contributing factor to teenage pregnancy. He has also said that technology being used for sexual arousal by girls is another factor. Now, where do you stand in all of this?
I am very much disappointed because...
At the government?
Not the government.
Okay.
The government is playing a very good role to ensure that these children go back to school. Those who are pregnant, there is somebody, a focal person at the Ministry of Education, who is responsible for all those, and they report regularly every Monday about developments on these programs. Why I say I'm very much disappointed, we have a lot of non-governmental organizations whose area of interest is either the girl child or education. How many of these non-governmental organizations have gone to the schools, have approached communities, have gone to religious organizations? Go and talk to them. What can we do to sensitize these girls so that they will not have even pregnancy or sexual intercourse with people when they are below 18, or particularly when they are going to school? I always look at it, whether they are above 18, once they are going to school, we should encourage them not to be involved in it. I worked with UNICEF during the Ebola as chairman of the Conference of Principals, and I still told them that we have our own tradition here. They were telling us that they should get these girls back to school. I say yes, programs should be made, but if we take them to school where you have the other regular ones who are not pregnant, it means you are inviting the others, go and do the same, you are coming. And as I'm saying, once these girls start having relationship with men, some of them even equate the boyfriends or whatever men that have pregnated them to the teachers who are teaching. And the teacher should be in control of the class. If they cannot have respect for the teacher, when they begin to compare their boyfriends or the person who has impregnated them with the teacher teaching in class, there will be challenges in the school system. I still emphasize the Ministry of Basic and Senior Education has somebody particularly who is the head of focal person at the ministry, who is a clergy person, a man of the cloth, a woman of the cloth, who is taking care of all of those issues and reports regularly. And I'm quite certain if we all who are NGOs come together, say, let us go to all communities, let us go to members of parliament to sell this idea to them, to go and tell children or pupils in their community not to be involved with men. I think that will strengthen the system. The First Lady has done it. The Parliament of Sierra Leone has approved it, that anyone who is involved in such relationship, action will be taken against you. I think we need to go and form counseling clubs. I am giving you these examples because it is something I have been studying. I even went to Ghana when I go on other trips. The YMCA in Ghana has a program they have made for the girls. They say, go to school, complete your education, get married before you have a child. That is something. And they go also to the religious organizations, both the Muslim and the Christians, all the NGOs that are shouting all of these things. How many communities have they spoken to? Have they spoken to the Conference of Principals? Have they made clubs in these schools? These are issues we need to address. I am very, very happy because of this free quality education. Those who cannot afford it, programs have been made for nobody to be left out. And particularly when you hear some of the schools, money is paid to them. The schools are even having more money than they were collecting school fees now. And that is even enhancing the smooth running of the schools. I think the NGOs who want to help with this girls' education, some of us are ready to partner with them free of cost. We'll share experiences with them. Let us go and talk to stakeholders. Formerly, even your neighbor's child was your child. When your neighbor sees your child, the child is afraid because that child is can be disciplined by the neighbor. Now we are copying some of these things from other countries, and some of the NGOs who are talking, the bulk of them are just copying from their donors who are coming, and they don't actually go by our own custom. We have our custom, we have our tradition. I will suggest we go by those things, and I'm quite certain some of us who have spent over 4 decades in the teaching field, we know a lot of problems. I am giving you another example, which is under the 2004 Education Act. You go to the streets, you will see teenage girls selling market. They are selling in the streets of Freetown while they should be in the school. I know somebody, I had to caution the girl. I'm very much impressed. I even have to talk to the grandmother. They say, no, that is where we are living. But the girl, by the time she finishes selling, what will happen? She will be tired. Even when they are teaching, she will not participate. And if she is selling, she goes somewhere, the day is bad, and sees a man who can buy. She will be ready to buy everything the girl is selling. Is that not so? So these are the issues I want the NGOs to come around. Having been a principal in the school, there is a lot you will learn about these things. Forget about the high theoretical things, the doctorates and all of these things. These people, practical examples will give us a short way of answering some of these questions. I do support the NGOs, the support they want to give, you understand. But let us observe our respect, our own custom.
Right.
Let us know that the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education is supporting them. Let us appreciate the First Lady and even our Parliament for the actions they are taking for the success of this program.
Okay, thank you very much, Sylvester. You've said a lot. You see, I did not interrupt because I was keenly listening so that I could grasp most of what you've said. Amongst many, you said sexual awareness is very minimal.
Yes.
Non-governmental organizations are not playing their part. I wish we could have had a representative from any NGO here, but thank God we have a civil society, and of course Josephine is also here. She's a staunch supporter of girls' advocacy in Serbia. I'm sure you would want to come in this moment, but before you do, you also made mention of robust campaigns and teenage girls hawking on the street. Now, he is coming from the disciplinary aspect of things,
which I realized just listening to him speak.
Indeed. Now, it seems he has a wealth of experience with all his years of being a principal.
Yeah.
So I think you would understand where he's coming from.
Yes.
And you see, take our tradition in Africa. Now, parents are at home watching or viewing this program at the moment. Now, you see, when a particular girl lacks discipline, I think, from the home, from the parental perspective of things, now it will be reflective of the girl's behavior outside. Now, I'm not sure any sober parent would send his or her girl child to the streets to hawk, whether it's pure water, whether it's assorted food items or anything at odd hours. Now, I'm sure advocating for girls, you should also be very punitive, very strong to criticizing some of these ills. Now, where do you stand in this? Haven't listened to you saying all of these things. It seems discipline is lacking here.
Yeah, it's very clear that discipline is lacking, but I stand that it's not the fault of the girls. It's a system that has failed the girls.
Is it a system or their parents?
The system, which also include the parents, the community, the leaders in this country. We have failed girls, including you and I, including us sitting here, punishing them for a crime that they didn't commit on themselves. The system has failed girls. This is a system where we don't talk about sex. Parents don't teach sex at home. We don't teach sex in school, all with the ideology that it will, tear the moral fabric of this country if we start talking about sex. But we understand that the earlier you start teaching about these things, the better it is for the people who are receiving this information, the boys and the girls. We don't have any tradition that says you should kick pregnant girls out of school, just like what Mr. Sylvester was saying, that the tradition of this country, we have to look. I see most of the time when people talk about this issue, they make mention of let's look at the tradition, the culture of this country. But I say this is a country where I'm not aware of any tradition of such nature. And
are you saying we don't have traditions?
We have tradition. We don't have tradition that say you should kick a girl out of school because she's pregnant. There's nothing like that.
Well, and then wouldn't you throw the line of Sylvester when he said that if girls who are pregnant are allowed to school, they will, negatively impact the lives of those who are attending school? That is mere
perception. There is no proof. When we talk about this, we want people to give us proof. Okay. There is no proof that when a pregnant, by the way, pregnancy is not a virus. It doesn't jump from one girl to another.
Okay.
We have had
I hope Sylvester is listening.
We have had instances of girls. Let me mention, we had a girls' court hearing where pregnant girls took over the law court building just to talk about their plight, to share their experience while they were pregnant, after they gave birth, when they tried to go back to school. We had a girl called Mariatu who lives in Port Loko. Mariatu is 13 years of age. She was impregnated by the Okada rider that normally takes her to school. And when that happened, a 13-year-old girl, this policy automatically disqualify her to continue school. She needs to stay home till she's 14, giving birth, and majority of these girls never return back. The reason why I say they never return back, because the system does not favor them to go back to school. We have another girl called Awa. She stayed home for a whole year. After giving birth, she tried to go back to school. And when she made that attempt, she realized that her name has been deleted off the school record. When we are here talking about this issue, we are not here because we've received some donor money. By the way, the organization I work for, Purposeful, we are a feminist movement building up for girls in Sierra Leone. We work in all the districts of this country. We have 30 partners, over 30 partners. We give grants to implement programs for girls. We are here for girls. We exist for girls. We are not only going to promote the issues we care about through advocacy, but we finance the resistance of girls. We are here because we generally care about the economy of this country. Because majority of these girls we're talking about, all of these girls we're talking about, are going to join the workforce of this country in the future. And if they're not educated, what country are we going to have? And like I said, majority do not return back. A government that prioritizes education should be looking at ways that they can demolish these barriers so that they will not exist anymore for girls to access education. Already we see the huge gap between boys and girls, men and women when it comes to education accessing. And let's talk about all these programs that people sit and talk that the Ministry of Basic Senior Secondary School Education have made provision. They have these programs. By the way, lifting the ban, we understand overturning it is just not enough. I'll come back to that again. But the most important thing they mentioned in the recent release that came out, they said they are allowed to take exams. How can they take exams if they are not in school where they learn the content that will be given during the exam? And then Mr. Sylvester make mention of programs. I tell you, those programs are not in existence anymore. I talk with authority because I understand those programs that were sponsored by UNFPA during after the Ebola outbreak, the alternative learning centers. They were not sufficient. By the way, they offer 3 subjects in those centers. We teach 8 subjects for Beke, right? And these girls were going to school with 3 subjects taught in those alternative centers. Those centers were not every day. They happen twice, 3 times a week. And when those centers are being established in a particular district, it is in the headquarter town. They're not in the villages. And when the program expired, when that particular project phased out, we don't have any reports. If the government is claiming that they enrolled 10,000 according to the public relation officer that was on air yesterday on SLBC radio, that they enrolled 10,000, integrated 10,000 back into the school system, where are the results? Where are the reports? We have been meeting with the Ministry of Education, meeting with the people who finance that alternative education in this country. So ask them for the reports. We want the data. We want to see what worked well in that program and what didn't work. The reason why I believe that data is not out, that report is not out, is because that particular program was not a success in this country. Now, our system already...
Before you go forward, may I just have a halt?
Yeah.
Please. You mentioned several pertinent things, one of which is, I'm sure, gentlemen, you are taking note. She said, if these girls cannot join the class, how could they cover the curriculum or curricula in the case before exams are given out? Now, that's a food for thought. You keep thinking of that. Now, I'll take this. Let's see what people have made or have been thinking about this utterance or the decision taken by the government to have pregnant girls joining schools or the classrooms to take exams. Now, a Vox Pop was coordinated by one of our reporters, Frances Harding, where she sought the views of people around town about what they thought or thinks about this decision by the government. Let's take a look. We'll be back.
The idea of the ministry is very good because it doesn't mean that if the teenage girls have got pregnant, it doesn't mean that if the teenagers have got pregnant, it doesn't mean that that is the end of their teenager. They can still go to school. Some of them can make it in life. After delivery, going back to school, they can still make it in life. Some of them can become important people in society because of the opportunity. The idea of the is very good, and I hope that this idea to push on for these teenage girls to go back to school after delivery. It is very important. If they give them that opportunity, they can still cope. And some of them are very brilliant, you understand? If they give them this opportunity to go to school during pregnancy time, they can still do well more than other girls that are not pregnant. So it is very good for them to continue schooling in pregnancy. I like the idea of it because that can help teenagers, and they will not get discouraged when they get pregnant. They say, my schooling is finished, something like that. Because some of them, when they get pregnant, the family members or parents or sponsors, they will say, since you are not pregnant, you are not going to school. But if governments are trying to put on this facility for these kids, it is very important that they go to school during pregnancy, and after delivery, they continue to go to school. Very important. I'm happy to have this information that this is what the ministry wants to do, and we pray that they will continue.
Well, I think it's a very good initiative from the ministry because such opportunities help pregnant girls to be successful in the future, and I believe getting pregnant doesn't mean your life is ended. So I think such opportunities help them to identify themselves as women and help them to be successful in the future. As a citizen, I believe it's a very good initiative from the ministry because I think this will help to empower girls that are pregnant to identify their dreams and become successful in the future.
I don't think that's a bad idea. It's good because it will reduce the number of dropouts we have in our country with regards sisters. For once, she knows that if she's pregnant, she would have the opportunity to continue with her schooling. I don't think that would be a bad idea. Rather than just leave them like that, you know, after being pregnant, they will find it difficult to go back to school because that will deter them from continuing with their education. Some of them have good educational inspiration, but for the fact that perhaps mistakenly or inadvertently they become pregnant, they will find it difficult to continue their education because it's like they've been ostracized by the community. You don't have the access to go to school. So I don't think the idea is bad. It's good for the government to give them that opportunity. Although more importantly, they must be known that it should not be like a platform for them to take it as a springboard or an advantage to continue what they did before, you know, when they got pregnant before going back to school. So I don't think, as a whole, the nutshell, the idea is not bad. I would encourage the government to continue with school.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea. Good idea in the sense because our society or our country or Africa as a whole has that stigma or has that mentality that every school-going child should not be pregnant. So in as much as you are going to school and you become pregnant, the society will dissociate themselves from you in terms of seeing you as a school-going kid. Probably the school will not allow you, your parents will not allow you to go to school again. You will be ashamed going to school among your friends, you're being pregnant, you know. So all these are stigmas that move the pregnant person away from school. But if they had come with this idea that pregnant people will be going to school, it helps them because it takes away that stigma for them. So like it's becoming legal now. Although it's not legal for a child that is going to school to become pregnant, but under the education circumstance, it is now legal that you can even become pregnant and go to school as long as you are willing or as long as you have the focus to continue. And also another advantage is that some of these children get pregnant at teenage due to inexperience, and the inexperience maybe will take them away and then they will not have that guidance. But as long as the platform is there, they will go to school. So for example, if you are now in a serious examination class, let me say the BEC or the WAS, So you notice that you are pregnant, probably 4 or 5 months pregnant. The pregnancy is now showing, and you become ashamed to go to school. But if you drop out of this class, you are already prepared now to write the exams. Maybe you are a brilliant person. So if you drop out of this class, that will be a whole year you will not be going to school. And then after giving birth, there are several challenges that will come after that. So you've lost like 2 years not going to school. So maybe in that 2 years period, some unfortunate circumstance will happen, then as a result of that you become dropouts. So if you are going to school and you are willing to write the examination, the Becker or the WAS, even though you are 7 or 8 months pregnant, you are not going to give birth in that hall. Yes, there are complications that are attached to pregnancy, but if you've studied, you prepare for the exam, you can still go and write that exam, and then when the results are out, you notice that you perform very well, and then after giving birth, you can pick up from that step again. Like I was SS1, I was GSS3, I was SS3, I wrote my exams, and now my results are out, but I'm waiting to give my child in SI care, and then I'll further on from that point. So this will reduce the dropout rate, because most of these children, when they go out of school with the intention that they are going to give birth and come back to school, the circumstance will not favor them again. But if they have that mentality that they have already written the exam, and the result is out, and the result is positive, it will be in their mind that after giving birth, then taking care of my child like a year or 2, I'll use that result again for my education to either university or to SS1, and nobody will know or nobody will care about me. So this is a good thing that the government is deciding to come with up, but it has to be a process. It will not happen eventually. But they have to educate the children about the advantage and the disadvantage. As for me, that is one advantage.
All right, those are views being sounded by some members of the public about their take, pronouncements about government, the pronouncements about girls joining the class to start taking public exams and not joining the classrooms for regular teachings or lectures, if you want to call it that. The Vox Populi, I'm sure you have heard diverse views. Some are in support and some are not. And now I have a panel of discussants this afternoon who have joined me here to have a clear edge about the topic. It's gradually becoming an enigma, now this topic about girls joining the classroom. Some say it is a step in the right direction, whilst others are tangentially or sharply criticizing this and saying that more needs to be done. And now, may I reintroduce my guests once more, in case you're just joining. This is Public Square on the Sierra Broadcasting Corporation with me, Eustace Victor Jones. I have Brahma K. Musa, Moana, pardon, it was not intended. There's a head of programs, Coalition of Civil Society and Human Rights Activists. I have Sylvester Mew, who himself has been a principal for many years. He is now retired, and he is also the former chairman, Conference of Principals of Secondary Schools in Sierra Leone. I have Josephine Kamara. She's the Advocacy and Communications Coordinator, Purposeful Production. And now I am joined by Amira Catherine Kuruma. She's a founder and president of Smart Women's Initiative. Welcome to podium. Excuse me. Welcome to Public Square of the SLBC. I'm sure Asmiuba would induct me for this. All right, let's get the discussion heated. You've heard. You were listening whilst you were outside the studios. These two gentlemen have made their points, and what's her name? Josephine also has made hers. Now, this thing about pregnant girls joining the classroom, some of them here are in support and some are not, clearly, of course, as you've observed. Now, some of the principles they are arguably debating this afternoon is the area of being principled, the area of discipline, whilst Josephine is of the firm view or firm conviction that these girls should be allowed into the classrooms to join the normal teachings and lectures in schools, and not only to take the exams, because if they have not been attending classes, how would they perform in the exams? She is saying that it's a direct trampling of their human right, if you want to call it that. Now, where do you stand in all of this? What will be your own conclusion or deliberations this afternoon about this topic?
Thank you very much for having me. Firstly, I would like viewers to understand that this is quite an interesting debate, and when I walked in the studio, I enjoyed the angle she was coming from.
Okay.
And for me, I cannot say it is okay for pregnant girls to be in school. I cannot say it is not okay for them to be restricted.
What can you say?
I think I just want to be on the fence. One thing I'm concerned about is each and every girl has the right to access education. Like you likely said, it's their fundamental human right. But equally so, firstly, I think we have to understand this. For me personally, she knows I'm a survivor of sexual child abuse. So I know when it comes to issues like that, eventually, let's say I became pregnant. At that time, I was 8 years old. Must I be excluded from education? I don't think so. But equally so, we must understand that the majority of girls who are still in school that are not yet pregnant, must we allow the space for them to think it is okay to have sex and it is okay to be pregnant and still be in school? That is a question I think we all should think about. I remember whilst I was in school, and I'm sure most of us are au fait with that. When a girl is pregnant, it's either she's afraid to go back to school, basically because of being stigmatized, or when she's in school, she will tightly wrap her tummy and suffocate the baby in that tummy. There lies the high rate of risk of having a safe delivery and still having the baby alive. But if we want to ensure that these girls access the fundamental human rights, which is access to education, for me personally, I think we should have a setup educational institution where they can access each and everything being taught in the traditional classroom. Someone might call it discrimination. That's what I was But sometimes, I know you make mention, you will definitely make mention of that. But sometimes we have to be a little bit discriminatory on certain things for the benefit of the majority. I would like to stop there.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I would want to say that this sexual hysteria, if I should call it, hysteria, basically, it's a term that describes a very damaging psychological effect on someone. Now, I don't know who would want to answer this question, but I'll pose it. Anyone who wants to would opt to. Now, don't you think that these girls are being stigmatized against?
It is very clear that yes, they've been stigmatized. Like I said, below 18 cannot consent for sex, and when pregnancy occur out of what we call sexual penetration, we are punishing them twice for a crime they didn't commit on themselves.
Now, let me ask the other question. Would any one of you want to say that these girls who are to be allowed to start joining the class or queue of other pupils to take these exams are potential threats to the others who have not had a foretaste, or if you like, a practical exemplification of sex in the first place?
I think with our own view, I think that's where we stand, because we don't want to be seeing these things happening or continue to happen. Because looking at Sierra Leone as a small community we are living in, because if you encourage all these things happen, even in the urban setting, it's happening, rather not looking at the rural setting, because all these things we want to set a pace wherein we can able to defend the others not to go into all these things. Because if we begin to encourage all this kind of things, where a girl be pregnanted and go back to the classroom and sit with other colleagues, that have to be impacted, you know, to the other girls as well. I believe what the government have to do, if all this with this law and with this stance of the government, I don't want them to reverse. I don't want it to retreat any longer. Let them stand so that when it has to stop somewhere, it has to stop somewhere. That's our own stand.
I have an opposing view. Let me give my opposing view. It's like saying, when you talk about sex, girls go and have sex anyway.
We are not saying
I'm
that.
just making a point. I'm just making a point. Information is power. When you give the right information to a child, you give the child the opportunity to make informed decision. That's why we advocate to start teaching about sex early. It's the same thing when a girl is pregnant. When I see a practical example of a pregnant girl, I will revisit my decision, and this will give me the opportunity to inform my decision about sex. Am I ready to have sex now? Am I ready to go through the stigmatization that is flowing from the community? Am I ready to go through the restriction from the government to access education? I tell you, it is completely the opposite when a pregnant girl is in classroom. This is not the only country we are pushing for this. It has happened in other countries. Let's not go to abroad. Let's go to Zambia, for example. When this case was alarming in Zambia, there was a study between two schools. They have the school where they encourage pregnant girls there, and then they give them the support they need, the counseling they need. They go to school till they are 7-8 months. They ready go give birth, and after 1 or 2 months, they come back to school. We saw that the rate of returning to school for the ones who were in this school where support was higher than the ones in the other school that was not receiving support at all. It has happened in Liberia. It's happening in Kenya. It's happening in South Africa, where Kenya and South Africa, where governments provide incentive to pregnant teenage mothers just to encourage them to stay in school. It could happen here. This is not a Western ideology we're talking about. We're talking from the fact that girls need to be accessing more education because we're in a country where only 52% of women are literate. Right. And what does that mean for maternal child death rates and all of that? That means a girl who is not in a space to learn about her body, learn about childbearing, be educated, is at a higher risk of losing a child before she reaches age 5. Thank
you very much, Josephine. May I allow Sylvester to comment, because I know your mouth is itching.
Thank you very much, sir. I've been listening to them. I still emphasize those who are organizing these programs should organize programs in the school. There is a saying, catch them young. If you catch them right at that small age, make programs for them, sensitize them, use the religious organizations, use the members of parliament, use the councillors, use the community, all small groups, encourage them for them to have, like they have anti-violence clubs in schools. Let us have these programs instead of advocating that when they are pregnant. We have a saying, a man is known by the friends he keeps. Birds of the same feather flock together. Evil communication corrupts good manners. You understand? These are all of these things. All the people who are advocating, I am telling you, if their children have friends who are pregnant, they will stop them from even be friends with those children. Okay. They will definitely do that. What I want us to do, I am also equally concerned. I am giving some of these experiences because I have served as a principal. Let me give you another example I had in my school while I was principal. After school, I was busy doing some work in my office. Then they said a girl wants to see me. But it was so late now, over 1 hour after school has closed. And then the girl, I said, come now, what do you want? And she explained to me that she sells water every day after school. And the girl was told by her stepfather that she should not return home because she lost 10,000 loans. She should not return home after school on that day if she does not bring the 10,000 loans. What did I do? I cautioned her, you understand, gave her the 10,000 loans and invites the parents to school. Had it been another girl, you understand, she will go and find a means of getting that 10,000 loans. I am giving all of these. I know some of these angels. We have our system. When some of us have sat in that chair of being a principal, particularly in a school where you have the parents are difficult even to pay school fees. we know some of the problems. Some even bring markets to sell in the school. I am telling you what I want these NGOs who are making this advocacy. These resources they have in their hands, let them direct some of these resources to the First Lady's program, Hands Off Our Girls, the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education. Let them take some of these monies also to communities to ensure that we strengthen the system. I am still emphasizing that we need to ensure that we have clubs in these schools, wherein these children, we encourage counselors in every school to counsel these pupils, and those who have made it in life, role model, let them go to these schools and talk to them. I am giving you another example of a child who got pregnant.
Please make it short.
Very short, sir. She got pregnant and the parent brought her to me, you understand? The mother was crying, say, for my position, for my girl to go to such a school and be pregnant. I am giving you a summary now. I took that girl, encouraged her, gave her lessons. I am telling you the amount of money that girl has now is far better than what I have if it's money you are taking to evaluate. And she's also a university graduate. But she was out of the school when I made arrangements for people to teach her. And she has made the grade. When you see her in the various vehicles she has, you will not believe that she was pregnant when she was in school.
Thank you very much, Sylvester. Now, I would like to go for our first set of text messages. I'm sure most of you have been, engaging our social media platforms. So before we do, just to make a few comments regarding what Sylvester Mew said. You see, it's a whole spectrum, a whole aspect on the development communications. They call it vertical minds and horizontal cultures. Now, most of the NGOs which come around come with a set target, with an agenda. But it is always far-fetched or quite different to what the society actually needs. Now, these people would have, made their own biddings elsewhere. They would have wrote series of business proposals, and they will get funded. Now, when they are here, they will insist on giving you what you don't want. And that's what you were saying, wasn't it?
Yes.
Now, that's it. So what Sylvester is saying, that if you are watching now, you are a non-governmental organization person, or you're working with an NGO, you should do the needful rather than doing what you feel like doing. Now, teenage pregnancy here is a very debilitating problem affecting the lives of girls in Sierra Leone, by extension contributing greatly to the ratio of unemployed girls, or dropouts, if I should say, in Sierra Leone, thereby enlarging the number of illiterates we have in Sierra Leone, and that by extension is stifling the growth of Sierra Leone, both economically, socially, and all other aspects you would want to think of. But that's a different kettle of fish altogether. Let me just take the first set of text messages we have. Now, this first one reads, it is unacceptable for us, I'm sure whoever wrote it wanted to say, us the female teachers, to encourage pregnant girls with other girls we will leave the classroom, or to join them in the classroom, I'm sure, a former concerned teacher. Now, she's saying that it's unacceptable to allow girls who are pregnant to join those who are not in the classroom. Now, the other one is saying, the girls whose human rights you are defending have first violated their own rights to education, and it's like telling them it's no crime to get pregnant girls in schools. Please help government to create clinics around school communities, knowing the kind of problems associated with pregnancy from a concerned parent in Freetown. Now, the other, which is the last apparently for now, is saying girls must be girls, and any girl who decides to be pregnant must not be allowed in school, as she has denied herself the right to be a girl. Now, these are the first set of text messages we have. Now, we have a parent who has sent his or hers, we have a teacher, they are all giving contrasting views about the topic in question or the discussion we are having now. I'm sure, Josephine, you would like to comment. Which of these text messages would you like to...
I think two of them make mention of the fact that girls should not go and get pregnant.
Okay.
I want to inform the public that these girls are not going to get pregnant. 8,505 victims of rape were reported by the Sierra Leone police last year. Over 2,500 of those numbers are rape of minors. That is why Purposeful championed the Black Tuesday movement to talk about the culture of rape and this culture of silence that is making us not talk about our girls being sexually abused every day.
Right.
Again, these are girls who are victims of what we call sexual penetration. They can simply not consent for sex. We as a nation are supposed to be protecting the rights of those girls. Most of the programs that Mr. Mew mentioned here, Purposeful has been the heart of those programs. We run what we call safe space programming across the country. Our recent safe space program is going to cater for over 15,000 girls in rural communities, 6 districts in the country. In those safe spaces, we teach about life skills, skills that girls need so that they can make informed decisions in their life.
All right.
We do all of those. But it's very important to note, in as much as we work this change, there are still a huge number of girls who are currently pregnant who we should be thinking of remedy for them. We should not be the kind of society that say, let's focus only on prevention and let's forget the ones who are already damaged. What is the solution for those ones that need us, that are calling for our help currently?
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Josephine. It seems we are a little over time, and time is of the essence here. It means we would have to conclude here. The discussion is very elaborate, I must tell of you. If we continue to discuss, we'll discuss here for the rest of the day, because it's as important as getting fed or going in search of food. That's how it is important. And I'm sure those of you who have been keenly following the program from the start would have reserved some of your own comments which you'd like to make known. Now, if you do have any comments to make, I'm sure you should try to contact the necessary authorities who are actually concerned, who are the aim of affairs regarding child rights and whatever you would want to call them. But clearly, what I will say is that I cannot for once, imagine a pregnant girl going to school. But on the other hand, now if these girls don't go to school, if they don't join the class, what kind of future will Sierra Leone have? Now, those questions I'm sure you would answer. Let me have the last message. It reads, those advocating for pregnant girls to attend school are doing it for their own interest. Now, there is no way to allow them to attend school during pregnancy. And now, we are wrapping up. I'll give each of you precisely 30 seconds to reply. I'll start with you, Brahma. Now, what should be the conclusion to this?
Yeah, my conclusion here is, I think my sister here, they have their own programs right now.
The conclusion to girls attending school and start taking exams.
Well, it's not of, we don't want to see these things happen. That's our stance here. Because we want to see how programs
You don't want to see these things happen?
Really.
All right, thank you very much. And now, Sylvester, what's the conclusion to this?
My conclusion, I stand by it. Perhaps Purposeful will open a secondary school wherein we will just be taking those girls. I think they could go on that. If that is their own idea, they will open a Purposeful secondary school just for those girls who are pregnant. Let us see whether they will go there or they will not go there. But I'm challenging them, they will not go to that school. Let us all work as a team, form organizations, form groups to ensure that we sensitize these parents, sensitize communities, religious leaders, the children, let them form clubs in their schools to enhance that their education is the most profitable thing they can benefit, and it will give them a better interest than anything in the world.
All right. Josephine?
There is a rape crisis that no one is talking about. We are afraid or we are ashamed to talk about. It's a disgrace that we are punishing rape victims. 28% of girls get pregnant anyway before their 18th birthday. This is what the figure is showing in Sierra Leone. What country are we going to have if we kick all of that number out of school? We're doomed to fail as a nation. We need to provide education for all because it's a fundamental human right.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all my discussants. It has been a very interactive session here. The program you've been viewing is Public Square on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Anchoring here, I have been Eustace Victor Jones. My guests who have so generously participated this afternoon have been Brahma K. Mwana, he's the head of programs, Coalition of Civil Society and Human Rights Activists. I also have Sylvester Mew. He is a retired principal, former chairman, Conference of Principals of Secondary Schools in Sierra Leone. I also have Josephine Kamara, whom you just heard. She is the Advocacy and Communications Coordinator, Purposeful Production, and also Amira Catherine Kuruma, founder and president, Smart Women Initiative. The discussion continues wherever you are. Continue dilating on this, and we might say this is being heightened. The topic is being heightened, and it's gradually becoming a very, very tough enigma, a very tough puzzle that will be very difficult to decipher should this nation allow it to progress beyond where it has gotten. It has been very interactive. I thank you all very much for being part of Public Square on the Sierra Leone Broadcasting Corporation. Until next week, goodbye.